It is fry an egg on the sidewalk hot. Tss. So how do you keep from losing your cool when you open your next utility bill and see how much it is? It feels like a weird catch-22, doesn't it? It's like you want to be cool, you want to be comfortable in your own home, but you always have to feel like you're balancing that against knowing and dreading the utility bill that is going to come at the end of the month. So it's always the question of how do you balance those two and how do you keep cool without paying a whole lot of money to do so?
There's some strategies that Hope and I have put into place this summer, actually some new ones that we've never done before, to help us keep cool while using less electricity. That seems kind of like a dichotomy, doesn't it? You don't think you can do both, but it is possible. And we're going to talk about that and elaborate on all of the steps that we've taken.
And we want you to stick with us till the end of the video because some viewers actually sent in some examples from their real utility bills that show that not only does what we're going to share with you in this video work for Larry and I, it is working for a lot of other people too.
Before we get started, if you don't know us, I'm Larry.
And I'm Hope.
And we're from Under the Median, where every week we bring you 2 videos on practical frugality.
All right, step number 1, and this does not seem like it's going to save you any money, but trust us, it will save you money. And that is you need to know your numbers. What does that mean?
Part of this step is having some awareness of what kind of power consumption you're using. And in order to do that, we got to take a little tabulation on it. And that means how many kilowatt hours are you using each month? And then maybe what part of the day are you using them? So as you do this, you start breaking it down into small segments so you can see what it is that's costing you more money.
We're going to show you examples from our actual energy bills and our actual energy consumption to sort of show you exactly what this looks like on paper. Now, we are very blessed to have a lot of raw data and information provided to us by our energy company. You can sign up for an online account with your energy company, and oftentimes that will allow you to see the backside, if you will, inside your actual energy usage. First thing we're tracking is how many kilowatt hours of electricity we're using every single month.
For instance, in June, we were using 362 kilowatt hours. When Hope gathered all the information, we were 11 days into the billing cycle. So this gives us a little barometer as to how we're doing.
One of the reasons it's super important to know how far you are into the billing cycle. If you're 29 days into the billing cycle and the billing cycle is 30 days, guess what? The numbers you see on paper are pretty much what you're working with as far as your bill is concerned. But we were 11 days in, and what that meant was we were only roughly 1/3 of the way into the billing cycle. And that meant if I didn't like the numbers I was seeing on paper, that I had the opportunity to make some changes in my behavior that would lower the usage and thus lower my bill.
Tracking is everything. Once you know exactly what you're doing and what's then causing it, you can affect some changes to lower it.
The next thing we were looking at is how many kilowatt hours we'd already used in that 11 days of the billing cycle.
That far in, we had already used 233 kilowatt hours. If we remained on that trend at the end of the month, we would have used 700 kilowatt hours of electricity.
One of the other things that our utility company gives us that is really helpful is an estimated bill. What they're telling you is if you change nothing, here's about what your bill is going to be. That was showing around $180, $185. And that's when I went, oh, that seems like a lot of money. That's a high bill. Let's see if we can change this. Now, I'll show you exactly how much we changed it. And then once again, we're going to tell you exactly what we did to create that change in our energy usage in a really short period of time. It was within a couple of weeks.
Within 2 weeks, we had lowered the estimated bill to $148. It would have been $180 had we not done anything.
Before we move on to telling you exactly what we did to lower it by that amount in 2 weeks, let's say your utility company does not give you any of the information that I just described to you. It's like a blank slate. Here's what you can do. Contact your utility company and ask them to send you your data for the last 12 months. Once you have gathered those 4 pieces of information from your utility company, the dates you were billed, your actual bill over the last 12 months, how many kilowatt hours of electricity you used, and what you were charged per kilowatt hour for that energy. Once you have that information, it's super easy to be able to see your patterns in energy usage over time.
Ask yourself this question: how does your overall energy usage, particularly we're looking at electricity on this video, how does it compare to last year's? Let's take a look at some of the things that Hope and I came up with from our own. You can see last year's usage in orange, that we've been using less energy each month for the first half of 2023 when compared directly with that of 2022. The dotted and solid wavy lines represent the daily temperatures.
Here's why those temperatures are important, because it does not matter what the actual temperature was last summer. You hit about August 1st, especially here in the Midwest in Illinois, and everybody's like, oh my Lord, it is like, this is a heat wave. This is so much hotter this year than it was last year. I haven't felt this way in years. It is so hot outside. The truth is, and I have tracked this for years, guys, the average daily temperatures really don't vary that much. It's all in your perspective. We're hot at 95 degrees because 95 degrees is hot, but it was still about 95 degrees last year. It's just that we haven't felt that 95 degrees in a few months. So all of a sudden, when we do feel it, we're like, oh, this is worse. This is so much worse than it was. It's really not that much worse than it was 12 months ago.
We have short memories, don't we?
We absolutely do. Larry and I know that we are using an average of 30 to 35% less electricity this year than we were last year. That has become super important because the rates that you are being charged, those supply rates, doubled last year in a lot of places. They did here in Illinois. I know they did in California. On the East Coast, we've heard from folks who watch us from like New Hampshire and some of those areas over there. Their rates also doubled about 12 to 24 months ago. So because of that, in order to pay less on your bill, you have to lower your energy usage significantly.
Now that you have a clear picture on your usage, let's go to the next step and take some steps in what we can do to reduce our energy bill costs.
Number 1, raise your thermostat. No one likes to hear those words in the middle of a heat wave. Raise your thermostat. But we're going to tell you how we've done it without roasting.
And this is the first year we've ever had our thermostat set where we have it now. I didn't think we could do it without just burning up in the house, but we are managing. Let's talk about our strategies.
Does raising your thermostat actually make a difference? Yes, statistically, you'll save between 1% and 3% on your final bill that month for every degree that you raise that thermostat. What do we have our thermostat set at this year? 79 degrees. That's the highest we have ever had the central air set in our house. And here's how we're doing it with feeling very comfortable in the rooms we're sitting in.
Quick quiz. What old-fashioned device do you have in your house that does some cooling?
All right, tell us in the comment section. It's very, very effective for helping you stay cool. What is that old-fashioned device? Tell us what you think it is. We're going to tell you what it is. Can I do my drum roll?
But let me just say this
Okay.
before we get into it. I'm a real fan of this device.
Oh my gosh. All right. Drum. Do I even need a drum roll after that? I'm going to do it anyway because I wanted to. It is
a fan. Now, there's all kinds of different fans that you can use. But what do fans do? They circulate air. They cause a little breeze in your home. And whenever you have movement of air, you have some cooling. So there are two kinds of fans that we're going to talk about. One we don't have anymore. We used to have these in our old house, and that is ceiling fans. Ceiling fans are very efficient. They don't use a lot of energy, and they circulate the air around in a room very nicely. The other kind of fan that we use use are just your simple table model fans. And that's what we have in literally every room in the house. We leave these running when we're in the room. They don't run if we're not in the room. And we usually put these on the low settings. We find just the low setting is good enough to distribute a good airflow. On low settings, these fans use anywhere from maybe 18 watts to 20 watts, though they don't use a lot of power, far less than putting your air conditioning down to, let's say, 75 degrees.
A couple of things that we really need to mention about fans, because this was a question which was posed in the comment section of a recent video. Should you leave your fan running if you're not in the room or you're not home? No. You should not. The reason the fan is making you feel cooler is because fans work on the principle of evaporation. The air feels cooler as it is hitting your body because it is evaporating natural moisture off of your skin. If you're not sitting in front of that fan, it does zero good to leave it on and leave it running.
If you want to magnify the power of your fan, you can put like a bowl of ice in front of it, and that'll blow that cooler air into the room. It does a little bit of cooling. You can also put a damp cloth over the fan, and that water that's coming off of that cloth will also do some cooling.
You know, it helps to suspend that cloth like in front of the fan, like a few inches in front of the fan. Then that helps that water vapor evaporate and as the cool air goes through it.
Yeah. What does a fan cost to use compared to an air conditioner? Well, this is really dramatic. A fan uses about 1 cent an hour to run, whereas your air conditioning unit, especially we're talking about central air, uses anywhere from 14 to 36 cents per hour. That's a dramatic difference in costs.
And interestingly, so that statistic, I looked it up a whole lot of places online. That seemed like a nice average, so that's why we said it's somewhere between 14 and 36 cents per hour to run your AC. But it depends totally on whether you're using a window unit. It depends on the tonnage of your central air. It depends on the square footage of your house. It depends on how your house is constructed. We have solid brick. It tends to hold the coolness in a lot more effectively than other houses that are made of different materials. Totally different for you than it may be for us. So we just want to make you aware that this is not like this is what it's going to cost you. It could be less than that. It could be substantially more than that figure. But speaking of figures, what real difference does it make to be running these fans? We're huge fans of running fans in conjunction with your central air, not in lieu of your central air, especially when it's this hot and humid outside. Statistically, if you use fans in the rooms in which you are sitting, you can raise that AC by up to 4 degrees with no difference in comfort level. And we will attest to it. We raised ours 3 degrees, guys, from 76 to 79 degrees, and we are perfectly comfortable in our house. Our next tip has to do with that AC too. It is to program your thermostat. Once again, huge debate about whether it's actually more cost effective to leave your thermostat at one temperature year round, and that's just what it is in your house, whether you're going to save more money doing that, or whether riding the thermostat, so to speak, actually makes a difference. Here is the facts. There was actually a study that was done in the last year or so by a company that tested this theory, whether it was more effective to leave your thermostat at one temperature or whether moving it about throughout the day to match the patterns of the heating and cooling in your home to your family's activity patterns. So for instance, if you're not home during the day, you don't have pets, it's perfectly fine to raise that thermostat in the summertime a few degrees or in the wintertime to lower the thermostat. Yeah. You want to program it so that 45 minutes to an hour before you walk back in that door, that the thermostat goes back to where you would prefer to have it set for your comfort level. Statistically, according to this study that was done, yes, it saves money to change the thermostat throughout the day rather than leaving it at one temperature. The only caveat is if you have one of those heating and cooling systems that is geothermal. If you have geothermal, it doesn't necessarily save you money. Most other heating and cooling apparatuses, it will save you money if you'll change the thermostat.
Your next job is to keep the heat out of the house. Let's talk about some things that you can do in order to effectively keep your house cooler. One of the things that Hope and I have overlooked in times past is making sure that all of our windows are closed. Now, we'll open up our windows when it gets cool out. We get a cool summer day, or right when you're transitioning between spring and summer, you get some nice temperatures. You want to open up the windows. But what we forget about sometimes is we open the lower sash, but the upper sash has come down a little bit. We close the lower sash and the upper is open, maybe a half an inch. And here we are now, it's warm. We got the air conditioner running and we're letting in warm air because we forgot to check. So check the top of your windows to make sure that those are shut. And the other thing too is to make sure that doors are kept closed. So keep doors all the way closed and latched so that you're doing your best job of keeping that heat out. Along with that, it's good too to weather strip your doors so you're not getting warm or hot air leaking in underneath.
There is a reason that your mother always shouted at you in the summertime, "Shut the door!"
I have my mom on tape saying that.
I know.
It's so funny.
Other than your windows, there are actually some other tips we want to give you about how to keep the heat out of the house, because this is actually a super important thing that you need to be working on. The second thing that you can do is when you cook on the stove top, put a lid on your pan. It is surprising how much heat escapes from the top of cooking pots.
Another thing you can do, and this is in relationship to cooking, cook outside. If you have a grill, this is a great time of year to grill out. The other thing you can do is use an Instant Pot. Those do not tend to warm up the house. A crock pot is also good, and so is the microwave. These don't emit a lot of heat.
I will say, for the Instant Pot, letting the pressure naturally release, that is your ticket to not putting all of that steam into your kitchen when you immediately release that pressure after it's done cooking. You have to plan your meal enough ahead of time so that you can naturally let it release. Releases just a teeny tiny bit at a time, which will not heat up your kitchen.
If you have to use your toaster oven, these are small and pretty portable. They can be taken outside, put on a table, and if you have outside outlets, you can plug them in there, and therefore you're not heating your house.
Or one of our fave ways to cook, and that would be our crock pot. Crock pots can be taken out on a porch or a patio or a balcony, as long as you can get electricity to them. And it does help to keep the heat from that cooking outside of your house. This just kind of bring to mind the fact that each of these methods we're talking about, except the grill, you are going to be using electricity to run them. So which one of these methods should you choose if you are trying to save on your electricity cost as well as keeping heat outside of the house? Well, we did a test where we cooked 4 squash using 4 different methods of cooking, and we figured out how much energy each of the cooking methods used. It was kind of it was our pseudo-scientific Hope and Larry. And so if you want to take a look at that video and see which of the electronic appliances actually won the race on using the least energy, I'm going to make sure that that video is linked up above and in the description of this video.
Oh, that scandalous home cooking video comparison. Yes, indeed.
All right, you know how much energy you've been using. You know, like, the patterns in your energy usage. You know that you're going to be keeping heat out of your house as much as possible. But there is something you can use that is going to aid you in knowing how much energy you are using and thus change your energy use behavior. It is Larry's absolute serious favorite thing to use.
I bought this little device when we were starting to use some solar in our house, because then it became very important to know how much power each item that we had was using and could we run it off of our solar batteries. So this is called a kilowatt meter, and all you have to do with this is you plug it into the wall and you plug the device that you're testing in here. There's different buttons on the front. The middle button is the one you push for watts, and it will show you exactly how much power any device plugged into it is using at that time. It will also do kilowatt hours over time, so it'll tell you how many kilowatt hours it's using if you want to leave it plugged in for 2, 3, 4 hours. So this is a great item. It's a good investment. This can tell you which items you may want to use and which items you may not want to use as much.
We'll leave a link to one of these in the description of the video, guys. It's going to be an affiliate link, just so you know that. Here's the next thing that we did. And remember, we lowered our estimated bill from 180 to around 145, and we did it in about 14 days. This is so important, and people, they discount how much this is going to save them on their electric usage, and they should not. Unplug, unplug, unplug. Why? Because vampire power sucks.
Power. We've talked about vampire power quite a bit in the past on some of our previous videos, but let's revisit that a little bit. Vampire power is simply power that any device uses that when it's plugged in and not in use, it's still drawing power because it has some things on it that need that power in order for the various features to function. The easiest two items that something will use that causes vampire power are the LED clock that a lot of these have, and if it uses a remote control. If it uses a remote, there has to be standby power in order for the circuits to come on when you hit the on button. So these are two indicators that any item that you have in your house is using power. If you want to see exactly how much vampire power you're using, plug the device into your kilowatt meter and it will register anywhere from 7 to 10 watts while the item is turned off. And you just keep running that. That's like running an LED bulb 24/7. So here are some things you can do to get rid of vampire power. Here are some examples of specific items that you might have in your house that uses vampire power. If you have a microwave plugged in and it has a clock on it, it's using that power. Even your electric ovens, if they have that device, they have a clock on them, they're going to be using power. TVs, receivers, anything with a, like I said, with a remote control, these are the items you need to look at. So what can you do exactly to cut down on this? What we do is we plug all of our entertainment center items into a power strip that can be shut off. I can actually shut the TV off and leave our lights on. We have our lights plugged into that as well. The microwave can be hooked up to a power strip that also can be turned off. That's easier than plugging and unplugging items in.
Interesting way you can find power strips and smart power strips, and even LED light bulbs. Check with your utility company. A lot of utility companies have programs available, particularly if you're low income. They'll come into your house, they'll give you all new LED light bulbs, they will provide power strips, they will even subsidize these items. I have seen power strips, really nice ones, guys, at Dollar Tree for $1.25, and it's because it was subsidized through our local energy company. So check with your energy company if you feel like, oh, I really want to get one of these before you buy. Check with the energy company.
Energy companies also supply these items to various stores. We've seen Sam's have a package of 8 LEDs for 98 cents because our local power company supplied those to them in order to distribute to the general public.
The question is, though, how much does the unplug, unplug, unplug rule, how much does that really make a difference in your utility bill at the end of the month? And the answer is a surprising difference.
Yes.
It, of course, does depend on how many of these devices you own that are sucking energy even when they're turned off but plugged in. However, statistically, it's somewhere between 10 and can even be upwards of 20% of your energy bill, this whole thing of vampire power.
With computer chips being put into items now, we have more and more of this going on. So there's so many things that we have in our home that would be just so surprising. And once again, I'll just say it one more time. Check any items that you have any doubts about with a kilowatt meter, and you'll see if it's using power that you're not getting any good out of.
Here's something that you need to understand about all of these tips we're giving you. These are all things that we did, remember, in, I think it was 10 to 14 days to lower our estimated bill from 180 to 145. You have to be willing to try different things and figure out the best combination of what works best for your family and your home. Because as I mentioned, not all homes are constructed equally. Not the square footage isn't equal. The age of the appliances is not equal. There are so many different variables that one of the things we have discovered about saving on energy is you have to be willing to pick and choose and try different things until you figure out, This is really helping us to save money on our energy costs. And you will find that combination as you go through. We promised you that we would give you examples. These are viewers who have just contacted us to say, hey, I did what you told me to do. It dramatically lowered my energy bill. Let's take a look real quick at three different examples.
Ron says, thanks for all that you and Larry do to help us save money. I've been a longtime follower and wanted to share with you some of the results from following your suggestions.
You can see that Ron sent us a great image. This is comparing same month in 2022 compared to 2023. And look at how much his energy bill and his energy usage dropped.
Nancy writes, I've been able to ride out this current utility rate increase and lowered my bills compared to last year. I lowered my thermostat, got rid of vampire power, and changed the way I cook and do laundry. If I had not been able to reduce my gas usage by 25% and my electric usage by 50%, I'm sure my utility bills would have doubled.
Her electric usage, she cut by 50% by following the exact same tips that we're showing you in this video. Here's a third example. This YouTube viewer just sent us this testimonial a few weeks ago. I've taken your advice and made a conscious decision to cut my utility usage. I track my daily usage, yay, and she tries to make all the adjustments that she can. Look at the percentage difference that I saved by taking small steps and just simply being more aware. This has made my entire week so far. Thank you for your wisdom and advice that you share with us. You know, these are just three examples of some folks who listen to exactly what we tell you to do on videos like this to drop your energy usage and thus drop your energy bills. If you are wanting every single tip that we give on saving on energy, we put them all into some ebooks for you, and it's a home energy savings bundle. I'm going to make sure, guys, that bundle, in case you want all the tips in one handy-to-use place, that bundle is going to be listed in the description of this video.
If you'd like some additional information on lowering your energy costs from some of our past videos, we've got one right over there that can give you some more tips.
Our next tip has to do with